Hello everyone. We, the members of Team A, are going to present before you the disadvantages of films. We have characterized the disadvantages of films into five major heads. These are namely: number 1, establish false notion; number 2, promoting of violence; number 3, promoting adultery and premature sex; number 4, meager or no respect for law and order; and number 5, popularity of unideal role models. Now, coming to the very first point, that is establishing false notion. Some movies portray certain subject or theme in a way which is far from real. Such portrayal establish false notions amongst the people. For instance, many of the Sikhs are joked upon because of the turban and jolly nature. Their turban makes them Taliban and their jolly nature conjures mockery. Similarly, masala dosa becomes an identity of South Indian people, but most black people shown in the film are portrayed as gangsters. Ever imagined why? The answer lies upon you. Every community has its individuality, tastes, and flaws, but that alone is not their true identity. Establishing an opinion based on certain aspect of a community encourages racism and other antisocial sentiments, which in turn hinders the peace and prosperity of the world. Coming on to the second point, that is, movies profess violence. Violence has been an integral part of cinema right from its inception, and Bollywood has not shied away from it. In fact, not only has violence been a key ingredient for hundreds of Indian films, but it has also been romanticized. Violence acted out by the protagonist is often a sign of strength and courage, something to feel proud about. Whereas a character unwilling to partake in violence is looked at as effeminate and cowardly. Heroes are often required to kill to win their lovers, and many a times their violent behavior is cheered on by their otherwise docile counterparts. Such acceptance of violence in films is largely left unquestioned. Why do Indian audiences accept murder and physical brutality in cinema over the depiction of loving homosexual relationships? Why is there a warning sign every time someone lights a cigarette and not when someone picks up a gun? A lot of people would say no. Millions of people watch aggressive films, but not everyone goes out committing crimes and causing disruption. We don't see cars exploding on the streets like they do in Rohit Shetty's films. So it is pretty obvious that violence in films is exaggerated, just like everything else. People don't break into song and dance after seeing a film. The same way, no sane person will go out and kill someone after watching a murder on screen. But does the answer to the question end just here? Although there may not be much evidence to prove that violence in films influences people's behavior, but it does have some short-term effects. All this is concerning, especially when it comes to children. Children often like to imitate what they see on television and in films. They cannot differentiate between fact and fiction until the age of 4. This might lead them to view violence as an ordinary occurrence, affecting their sense of compassion. The justification of violence and its representation as something cool may also influence adolescents to act out in order to impress their peers. Violence in films has risen so much in the last few decades that crores of rupees are pumped in every year to stylize and carelessly display destruction, cruelty, and gore. Moving on, we have promoting adultery and premature sex. To make film a grand success, filmmakers are inserting various low value components like sex and other obscene scenes to ensure success of films at box office. Majority of the films that they are producing are stuffed with vulgar scenes, lewd comments and abusive language. They are completely devoid of any social purpose, message, relevance, and significance. Cinema has greatly damaged the social values and undermined social fabrics too. Adolescents are seen copying those indecent and silly acts portrayed in the film, and they indulge in rape, eve teasing, passing lewd comments, slut-shaming girls, and outraging their modesty. Cinema has always had a role in deforming the image of society and women in particular. Women are used as decorative items or as arm candies, or to sensationalize and lure more viewership. Too much sexual traffic in films should be reduced. Sexual context does have a negative impact on today's youth, but there is more to the picture. Images and pornographic or adult content on the internet and in films certainly plays a major role in the story. But we have to ask ourselves about the consequences of this overload of sexuality. Could we see a country free from world of perverts and sex addicts? A disease-ridden place with too many abortions and Plan B encounters and one-night stands? The growing tendency of the film industry to exploit sex, women and vulgar scenes must be firmly restrained. We have to encourage people to seek responsibility, considerate, meaningful relationship. Getting intimate is a part and parcel of life of every human being. But false portrayal of it through films is a complete wrong notion. It should primarily be used to educate and inform the people and to disseminate significant and relevant message to the society so that it could be used as a tool to purge all existing social evil and solidify social fabric. Moving on to the fourth and one of the most major point, that is meager or no respect for law and order. In the modern times, in films we see heroes shooting at cops, assassinators killing presidents, and villains raping women, which all have one thing in common, that is lawlessness. Movies proliferate the idea that it is cool to break law or that it is not a big deal to break law. This attitude is picked up very easily and quickly by the young minds. Criminal tendencies are aggregated by movies which show violent acts against the law upholders or even a common citizen, thereby creating a negative mindset. To speak more practically about rape, which is one of such issues, the Indian law mentions that police officers who fail to register a complaint of sexual assault face up to 2 years in prison. However, Human Rights Watch found that police did not always file a first information report or FIR. In several cases, the police resisted filing the FIR or pressurized the victim's family to settle or compromise, particularly if the accused was from a powerful family or community. The lack of a witness protection law in India makes rape survivors and witnesses vulnerable to pressure that undermines prosecutions. For instance, unofficial village caste councils often pressure Dalit and other so called low caste families not to pursue a criminal case or to change their testimony if the accused is from the dominant caste. Victims of sexual assault, particularly from poor and marginalized communities, also lack effective legal assistance. Some defense lawyers and judges still use language in courtrooms that is biased and derogatory towards sexual assault survivors. The attempt at shaming the victim is still very much prevalent in the courts. It takes time to change mindsets, but the Indian government should ensure medical counseling and legal support to victims and their families, and at the same time do more to sensitize police officers, judicial officials, and medical professionals on the paper handling of sexual violence cases. Thus, in a society where rape has become a common culture, if we as individuals work hand in hand to raise our voices against rapism and corruption, then no worldly powers can suppress us. Also, it is our responsibility as individuals to bring forward such situations to the ears of the government so that justice can be provided to such victims. We should look into their experience, read stories of such survivors and activists around the globe and follow hashtag Orange the World and hashtag Generation Equality on social media. Don't say, why didn't she leave? But do say, we hear you, we see you, we believe you. Coming to the last and another important demerit of films, that is, popularity of unideal role models. Films are remembered for their story, direction, etc., but mostly they are remembered by the actors. They become our role models. We want to become like them. They are more popular than real life heroes and get more recognition than anyone else. Let's not forget that the heroes we applaud have become heroes at our own expense and because of the marketing strategy. If real life heroes were also marketed the same, but then real life heroes are not glamorous or perform stunts. We know more entertainment celebrities than those who really make a difference in the world. How many of us know about an ordinary man who did extraordinary to save others? The world is full of brave, strong, handsome, innovative, intelligent, life-saving people who carry on with their lives without expecting any applaud in return. But their achievements are dwarfed by a giant poster of movies with their glamorous star cast published throughout the world.